Hello, everyone. So, yes, we are here. We are back. Time for another exciting, fun episode, of course, of All Nicked Up. It is June 4th, 2025. And yeah, I mean, obviously, we have a big show planned for you tonight because not only did the Knicks lose, they've made news already, which we'll get to in a bit. But first, let me bring on my two co-hosts. Let me bring on Ty and Joe. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello,
Hello,
hello.
hello.
So what a strange last few days, and we'll get into it in a bit. But of course,
For
I'm
real.
the news that the Knicks have indeed decided to part ways with head coach Tom Thibodeau after losing in the Eastern Conference Finals, 4-2 against, of course, the Indiana Pacers. So, first, let me read a little bit. Let me read their press release because I don't want to get anything wrong. So, hold on a second. Let me pull this up so I can actually, you guys can see it and I'll read it. And there we go. So, here we go. All right. So, Knicks announced coaching change. It says for immediate release. This was yesterday. New York Knicks announced today that the team has relieved head coach Tom Thibodeau of his duties. Our organization is singularly focused on winning a championship for our fans. This pursuit led us to the difficult decision to inform Tom Thibodeau that we've decided to move in another direction, said Knicks president Leon Rose. We can't thank Tom enough for pouring his heart and soul into each and every day of being the New York Knicks head coach. He led us not only with class and professionalism for the past 5 seasons, but also to tremendous success on the court with 4 playoff berths and 4 playoff series victories. Ultimately, we made the decision we feel is best for our organization moving forward. Tom will always be part of our Knicks family, and we truly wish him nothing but the best in the future. So, now that we got that bull crap out of the way, because to me, that's what that means. If someone did that statement for me, I would be like, yeah, save it. If I was in that position, but so yeah, guys, I'm gonna tell a quick little story about this because I was super busy working yesterday, and I had totally like I knew you guys were chatting because I felt my phone buzzing every few minutes when you guys were sending messages, but I wasn't paying attention to it. And then my buddy called me, and he called me. He didn't just he called me. He goes, Eric. I'm like, what the hell's going on? He goes, the Knicks fired Tibbs, and I'm like, get out of here. I'm like, there's no way, you're lying. I don't believe you. And then I'm like, what? I finally put my phone down and I go to the chat, our chat, and I'm like, oh my god, it's true. Like, and that was my first response to you guys. I just put OMG because honestly, I could not believe it. Um, I I did think there was a chance. I remember saying to you guys, I thought there was a possibility that this could happen because of how things unfolded. But I mean, I thought it was like a 10% chance, maybe even less than 10%. Like I didn't even think it was that high. So yeah, you guys give me your first initial reaction when you heard the news. Not what you said in the chat, but just like when you saw it, and then you were like, what was your reaction?
Joe, you can go first.
Total and complete shock. We were talking about this the last show, and I was saying I could not see them firing him in the offseason. I thought his seat was going to be warm going into the next season. You could have picked my jaw up off the ground. I mean, it took a little while for it to really register with me. I have so many thoughts and feelings about this. I mean, I could go on about this probably for 10 minutes.
We'll have time for that, but continue.
Yeah, I was just complete and utter shock. I could not believe they did it. I mean, I was impressed that they actually pulled the trigger on it, but shocked, I would say, is my reaction.
All right, Ty, what about you, man? Like we both know that you and I are not a fan of his, so I'm interested to hear what your first initial like visceral reaction was to it.
Thank you, Lord. But sure say amen. I wasn't very shocked. We've heard a little bit of breadcrumbs from Ian Begley speaking about new format they were utilizing as part of the exit process or whatever, and hearing that there was no guarantee, which when you started hearing Ian say those kind of things, who's the most tied in, beat writer for this covers the Knicks or whatever, you kind of got a little worried a little bit, well, not worried for me, but you can sense that Tom should have been worried hearing that they're doing something. Whenever you hear someone saying they're doing something new, like, hold on a second, we're going to change, we're going to start doing something different than we've normally done. Watch out, because you know what? That's not going to be good for someone. This change is coming. Basically, it's what it comes down to. So, I don't know. You look at the breadcrumbs. I mean, when you look at the team and the performance and all that, et cetera, am I shocked? Absolutely not, because the expectations have always been a little bit higher once they beat Boston. So, what have we been talking about? What have we been complaining about on this panel for the longest time has been the shortcomings of Tom Thibodeau and how they will eventually cost him something. And namely, and as clockwork has it, we've seen it in Chicago, we've seen it in Minnesota, and it was time in New York where he wears out his welcome. So I don't think anyone was shocked. I think people may have given him another year, maybe possibly. You think they might have that little gap or window. But you got to look at it from the standpoint that the Knicks came into this season, whether people don't want to believe it or believe it was something that, was outlandish to believe. I was as outlandish because you guys know what I said when we did the prediction show. I said they should win a title. I stood on business. I didn't go and say, oh, I don't know. I was like, with the talent they have and with their symbol, it's title or bust. Why would you expect a second round exit? The problem is I'm going to show the front office after going all in, because Mikal Bridges was an all-in move. Cat was definitely an all-in move. You had no other moves after that.
Yeah.
There was no way that they were going to let this guy go ahead and just do what he wants to do. What he's been, this modum operandi has been always been laying a short lineup. They trusted him from a time being, but once they went all in, the clock was ticking. So I'm not shocked as much. We probably thought he would have another year, but that loss against Indiana, the series that I actually sought out as a Knicks fan, pretty much, because it was horrific and it was hard to watch. If I felt that way, imagine the people who are paying these guys over almost $250 million a year felt about that. You think Dolan didn't have an issue with that? When you've had this high price tag on all these maxed out players, you basically forfeited your future to get Mikal Bridges, and you watch that disaster in Indiana, his ass needed to go. I don't know why somebody would be shocked that they fired him. It was absolutely horrendous. That last sequence and that they should have never lost game one. Once game one happened, he was done. He was done.
Yeah, I think how that series unfolded, it was kind of a microcosm of his entire coaching career here. Like the stubbornness of not playing the bench until it was too late. Like certain things that we saw through this series, through this last Eastern Conference Finals, was kind of just everything we've all been saying about him since he was named head coach. Mm-hmm. And yes, I want to start by saying this, and we've said it in the past, I completely give him credit for rebuilding the culture here. The Knicks were not a destination when he got here. He's rebuilt the team to make it somewhere players talk about wanting to go to now. Mm-hmm. And he is a huge part of that. So I do not want to take away that part of what he did, but this was always going to be the end for him. Like this was always going to be how it's going to end, because, and I saw the video you posted of Jay Williams, what he said about, Thibodeau, and he said, we've seen this movie before. We saw it in Chicago. We saw it in Minnesota. And it was only a matter of time, in my opinion, before we got here. Now, like I said, after they made the conference finals, at first I was like, and we said it on the show, I was like, well, he's staying now. Like I didn't think he would get let go. But how the Indiana series unfolded, and that it was the Pacers again, and that they had home court advantage. Second year in a row, they lost to this team when they had home court advantage. I think the team probably, the higher ups, Leon and Worldwide West, and maybe even Dolan, we heard he might have been a part of this whole meeting conversation. Maybe he was fine. They finally said, hey, you know what? He's taken us as far as he can take us. Like there's nowhere else for him
Why
to
sign
go.
him this isn't news though with him. Why sign him to the extension? That's what I don't understand. That's what I'm shocked about.
I think they
Well,
probably.
if he,
Go ahead.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No, I was gonna say they gave him this one shot to take these players that, let's be honest, are players he should be able to deploy with what they're good at. Like you have OG and Bridges, they're supposedly two great wing defenders. He should be able to deploy them. They have the point guard that he's known since he was a little baby, like playing now for him. This team was built because of the coach in a lot of ways, and
that contract still hasn't even started. Why not take it out for a test drive?
That's fair.
I'm shocked that he's getting fired before a contract extension is starting that they signed him to. It's still shocking to me. I mean, I don't know.
I think it's like he's like the OG Anunoby free agency. And what I mean by that, when you look at Thibodeau, imagine they didn't extend him. Imagine look at the chaos now that he's been fired. So you imagine last year they go, oh, we're going to put him in as a lame duck. He's coming in. We are unsure about this coach. And they go, typical Knick culture. You can't keep your coach who's done X, Y, Z, A, B, C. All these things you're hearing now about Tom Thibodeau, and people are in an uproar about defending him, saying, oh,
right.
The Knicks dropped the ball. The guy just got us to the conference finals. How dare you fire him? Well, if that happened the year prior and they didn't extend him, it would have been the same language. You got a guy who's been here this long and he's done X, Y, Z. Why are they not extending him? Why are they nicking this? Is what you would have probably heard if they didn't extend him.
The reasons that they fired him were always there. We've been talking about these same things for years.
For sure.
And I'm sure if the three of us knew about it, they knew about it too. It just seems really strange, the whole thing. But
could be Dolan strange.
I'm still impressed that they did it. I still think it was the right move. I'm still impressed that they did it. It's just I still think it's shocking.
I think that literally
it took stones to do it. I really do in this situation. I think it was the right thing, and it took stones. I applaud them for it. It's still shocking.
I think Dolan gave them the stones. Well, he at least gave it to Leon. I think it was, could be a 2-for-1 deal. I think he was like,
if it was Dolan, good for him.
No, but I'm saying
that we're ever gonna know because
we're never gonna know.
Rose is never gonna speak.
No,
but this is going back to reliving.
Rose is his human shield now.
Well, it's about addressing. You said about the 3-year extension. Probably Leon wanted him to have 3 years. Then Dolan sat in on game one and was like, of Indiana. It's like, no, he's not getting the. I'll just pay him. He has to go. Because you got to realize one thing: World Wide West was complaining about Tibbs a long time ago, about 2 years ago.
Brock Aller, I heard, was not.
Yeah, Brock
exactly in the right.
Yeah, he don't lock him at all. But what's his name? Wesley went to James Dolan to talk about Thibodeau and what his lineups and all the things we complain about as fans. He went to him, and Dolan asked Leon, "I give you permission to fire him if you want." And Leon stood on business, like, "No, I'm not firing him." I'm just saying, I think we reached the point of no return, as that song says. I think we're at the point of no return where that ugly loss. You got to think about it. Look at the fervor. Look at the fire that New York had. All the former players are out. People are dancing in the streets like it's a 1980 Lionel Richie video. I mean, it's just really, when you think about New York was lit. Have we ever seen this much attention paid to the Knicks? And everybody's like, 8, we said on the show, 8 more wins. I mean, literally, I think everyone thought 8 more wins, and they're getting behind it. Dolan probably got the parade already planned. And then come this dude. Makes no adjustments. He ruined the party. And Dolan was like, well, what happens what he did with Oakley? He kicked him out of the party. Once he started acting crazy, he kicked him out. So he looked at Tibbs and probably was like, you're here because of Leon. Because I don't think Dolan likes Tibbs. I think there's a pass with that where
part of the 90s
work on him to actually hire Tibbs back or to hire him, make him a candidate. So there's never been great blood there. I just think it's more so that he wet the bed and Dolan threw out the whole mattress.
This does seem like a Dolan influenced move. Because like it's funny, we were talking about this the other day about how he waited like a 2 days late to fire Phil Jackson. Like this does seem something like a move that Dolan had influence over, and it's finally been made now. I mean, looking over his tenure here, like I said, we kind of have been. I already brought up all the culture stuff that he did. What would you, thinking of everything, all 4 years? What moment stands out the most? And try not to pick something recent if you can. Try to pick something from like earlier on that you were like, oh man, if you can.
I'm going to have that one. You can answer that one.
I think the good thing that I can remember is watching playoffs basketball again. That I think is the first thing that I can remember about Tom Thibodeau, and feeling like there was kind of hope. Again, this is part of me is saying this is the most successful run that we've had in 25 years, and I know that the media is playing this up and everything, but there's the other side of my face saying he also had the best roster that we had in 25 years too, and that plays a big part in it as well.
Sure.
You know, there's been a lot of good memories, man. I mean, it's been great watching playoff basketball, competitive basketball, all of those things, and I've spoke about that in this show, but there's also the frustration of knowing that I've watched basketball where I knew we were less than the sum of our parts. And the frustration of watching kind of game in and game out, knowing that it really wasn't sustainable and that a change would have to be made one day. It's hard to really kind of pin down isolated things because, I mean, it's really kind of the scale of the last couple of years. I just know kind of the emotions going through it. I appreciate the man. I really do. It's time to move on.
All right.
Well, his shining moment for me was when he left RJ in the game and he sprained his ankle. That's my shining moment. When I think about him in totality, yeah, I get it. We have a talent. We do have more talent. They're going to win a lot of games with the talent that we have. Even when we didn't have Cat, we still had Julius. We still had talent. You had two. And Brunson Brunson really changed it, but we can give Julius, he was an all-star. He helped power them into the playoffs. So he's always been saved by great players or great moments from certain players. We saw when Derrick Rose traded came. That saved that was a season really going down the tubes at one point. Derrick comes in, he changes the trajectory, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, let's celebrate Tibbs. Same thing. RJ
also had good rosters.
Yeah, also when you think about RJ went on a huge streak at one point, which also helped to preserve that season also. So he's had great moments because of streaky players coming in with impact. We saw Josh Hart come and do it. We've seen those little add-ins, which, I mean, do we say it's him or do we say it's the front office? But those guys injected a certain energy into pushing the team forward, and somehow, lo and behold, we end up in the playoffs. When you think about him as a person or as a coach, I go back to the RJ thing because that is exactly what has happened here. The shortcomings of a coach unwilling to get out of his own way. You risk limb and arse basically on your star players, no matter if you feel great about them or not. He's basically saying you're not all that great. He's willing to play anyone for a lot of minutes and doesn't care about the results afterwards because he treats his star players like they're bench players or the 15th man. And we saw with Karl Towns just this year, twist his knee, what does he do? He leaves him in the game, lets him go back in there. He checks him back in. This is malpractice as a coach. So when I think about the memories, I'm thinking about those great players having great moments and great seasons. I don't put that on him as much because you are playing 7-guy rotation every year. Supposedly, I think it was Jay Williams, I think he said, it might have been him, that said that the amount of overage that the Knicks played as starters were the same equivalent to 15 extra games.
Yeah, it was him.
That's insane when you think about that. When you think about the Knicks, we're like I said, great for the playoffs. I agree with you, Joe. It's nice being in the playoffs, not looking at Tankathon. I mean, like, I was the expert. I mean, it's great not having all that going on. But in the same sense, I know I'm greedy. I want to win a title before I'm dead.
Everybody does.
This is that's the thing. Will this coach get you there? I have no belief he will. I have no belief. So when people they're defending him, I'm like, yeah, you're defending the success because we've been in the doldrums, and I get that. But we're asking, what is more important to you, regular season titles or breaking the 52-year curse? We're 53 next year. Which one is more important? And this guy doesn't care about that. If he cared about that, he would utilize the whole damn team instead of 7 players because he likes them. How many times have we heard? You got to think about this. These guys at the end of the bench, and I'm mad because of the guys at the end of the bench. Really, he's basically told the league that these guys are incapable and not qualified to play in the NBA. That's what he threw up that bat symbol to the rest of the league. Those guys have no value to him. He's saying they're incapable of getting minutes in a game, whether it's 5 or 10 minutes. He's saying none of those guys deserve it. That's the Landry Shams of the world. Yeah. That's the Deleon Wrights of the world. That's the Huck Porties that played over in Europe for 3 or 4 years as a professional. That's Tyler Kolek. You're saying that he's no good? You're saying that dude is no good whatsoever. He doesn't deserve any minutes. Think about what that symbolizes for the Knicks and free agency also. Who's going to come here playing with this guy, knowing that he's going to tell you, I have 7 guys, and you can't improve the team? He's already letting you know I'm not going to play him. His legacy to me is this retarded, I don't want to use that word, tard stubbornness of not wanting to actually advance to modern day basketball or to be receptive to input. That's what he reminds me of. When you think about those years I'm telling you about, yeah, we made the playoffs, but ask yourself, how did we make the playoffs? And those were special years by Julius, special years by Brunson, and those years where you got the right guy at the right time. Those are things that powered you into the playoffs because the same habits were going on that were stopping you from getting to the playoffs.
Yeah, I know for me, I think, and I don't know how many people would say this, but for me, the biggest thing under his tenure, or the moment I remember most is that first Julius year. Like that's the year that Julius Randle, because when he was here the first year with the previous coach, with who shall not be named, right? Like it looked like such a terrible signing, and I was a proponent of it. Like I liked his game in New Orleans, so I'm like, I think he'd be a good fit here. So for Tibbs to come and to get that performance out of him in that season. And I mean, I got to give him credit for it because he's the one who changed it up and got him to play at that style. That's the most positive memory for me, or because that started everything, right? Like that kicked all of this off that we've now been seeing these past few years. So that's really what I look at from a positive. The negatives we've been through numerous times. I don't need to go rehash them again. But it comes down to this for me with him. He was coaching a style of basketball that's outdated, number one. It's an outdated style of basketball. And he personally did not have the success with that style. It was not his. He adopted it from Van Gundy, who adopted it from Riley, and he just decided I'm going to run with it, and that's fine. I understand you go back to what you're comfortable with. But when he got here and he was saying, well, being away from the game, I saw some things and I learned I need to change. And it was just coach speak. He did not change at all. Yeah. He still coaches defense like it's 1990, where you're packing the paint and not defending the 3-point line. That's a problem this team has and has had under his coaching. He still plays a 7-man rotation, whether it's the first game of the season or the 7th game of a playoff series. He's playing a 7-man rotation. Again, something he picked up from his previous 2. But he never had the success that those 2 guys had. So it's unfounded. There's no cachet for it. And that's kind of what it's been for me with him from the beginning. Like I didn't like when they hired him, I didn't like the hire. I wanted Kenny Atkinson. I said it. That's the guy I wanted. So, I mean, like I said, to kind of wrap him up in a bow for me, thank you for what you've done. But now I'm glad you're gone. I'm happy you're gone.
a memory just popped in right now from this season, from these playoffs, that I think tells a very big story right now. When Rick Brunson had to get off the bench and tell him to pull the starters in the fourth quarter against Boston. When they had that big lead on Boston. Yeah.
3 times.
That's really telling. That's a memory I have.
That's what, when I think about all the coaches, I mean, we can glorify, like Eric said, Riley, excellent. He got rings. Then Gundy, powered to the finals. I mean, we got to give him credit for those things. I'm a big fan of his, but still give him credit. He did excel at it. But he had the personnel that fit what he was trying to do also.
But if that whole system came from Riley did that as an adjustment to the team that he was handed.
Exactly.
Yes. Exactly. Because it was the Knicks.
He was doing something completely different in LA.
Yeah, it was
reassessed and said, I will win with these guys. Not believing that this is the way that all teams should play.
Yeah.
No.
And Thibodeau, it doesn't matter what the talent is. There's no give. It's like, we're going to play this rigid style of basketball. Meanwhile, you got two guys, obviously, we know they're not going to be Dennis Rodman anytime in the rest of their lives. They're not great defenders. However, what they are great scorers. Both guys are like savants at scoring. You knew the minute you got in Jalen Brunson, the minute you also definitely brought in Karl Anthony Towns, you knew what you were getting yourself into, because you're looking at these guys and you're going, we're going to outscore a lot of people. Let's develop a system that allows these guys to flourish in what they're great at. That's what's all about basketball, putting guys in position where they excel at what they're great at. And when you're looking at that, you're trying to make these guys look like the 90s Knicks. How the hell is that ever going to work? And then the negligence is knowing that we are in a 3-point happy team season era, whatever you want to call it, of basketball. You never developed any kind of defense to stop the 3-point. Like, you got to look at how ignorant that is. Like, he doesn't design anything, and he watches all the film. He was watching all the film. That's all we ever hear. He stays in the gym. He sleeps in the gym. He had an affair with the gym. His mistress is in the gym. We've never heard he's picking up gyms on the corner. Money they're not Johns, they're gyms. I mean, this is what this dude has been doing. And you mean to tell three musketeers right here have been noticing that maybe you want to run a guy off the line for once in a while? He's like, nope, we're going to still pack the paint and have these guys hedge way deep in the paint, never with a chance to recover.
And even from the offensive perspective, he actually had the roster to do 5 out, which is more an offense from today's game, at least to mix it in, and he would never do that. Yep. He actually has a roster that could do that, as well as the other teams that murdered him with it.
It's true. He won't change. That's why, I mean,
never went to it.
I respect what he's done as a coach. He's won several coaches of the year. I'm never saying he didn't earn those things. Obviously, he's the ogre and, this grinding in the middle. He's going to get your team right and toughen you up and get you disciplined, all et cetera. But when you talk about a basketball mind, he does not have a beautiful basketball mind whatsoever, in my opinion.
Send him to Charlotte. They could use him there.
They could. They could use him.
They really could.
They could use him.
No, there is a use for Tom Thibodeau.
There is.
There's absolutely a use for Tom Thibodeau. He's just not a second contract coach. I appreciate the guy. I love the guy and everything like that. He's not a second contract. He's the fixer. Like, Eric, in your industry, I'm sure you know fixers, people that come in and do something particularly well. They come in, they do it, and they move on. They do that same thing in another place.
Make it sound like I'm in the mob or something, but yeah, I do.
Implementation specialists that are good at one thing, for example, right?
Yes, I know what you mean.
That's what Tom Thibodeau is. He's a fixer.
He is. That's exactly what he is. He's the guy, like John says a lot, the guy before the guy, right? That's kind of what he is. He is the guy before the guy.
And here we are.
And here we are. So now that he's gone, and Joe, you said this last week, who you're getting to replace him.
There doesn't feel like there's a succession plan in place, and I think that's an error when you make that decision without a succession plan already in hand. unless there's something I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's why it smells a little bit like Dolan, because what we've seen from Leon and we've seen from Wes and all the other guys, they've always been forward thinkers. They always have a plan ahead of most people. Like you never know their agenda. Like they've already plotted. Like we didn't see the McCall trade. We definitely didn't see the Cat trade. All these things are surprising. Obviously, we didn't see the Thibodeau trade also. But what I'm saying is that they usually have a plan. The fact that they're not able to name someone and we don't know anything about it, I think this was a little bit of a knee jerk of like, get him the hell out of here. I'm tired of him. He doesn't want to listen.
That's not strategically a good way to handle it.
That's why I think Dolan did it. I think Dolan was like, get him the hell out of here.
God, I really hope that's not the case, but it has been his style. Like
that's the thing. The boogeyman's gone now. So who's going to make the situation better? I don't think it's going to be Mike Malone.
That's kind of where I wanted to go first. Obviously, Mike Malone is the first name that comes up for people because for a number of reasons. One, he won a championship. Two, he's a New Yorker. Three, he's a no nonsense type of coach, and I think that's what people like. But it's kind of what we just had. He's similar to Tibbs in a lot of respects.
He's not going to play the young guys,
right? So I don't see that happening. I brought up Jay Wright, who would be my perfect guy to coach this team. He surprisingly, we've heard stuff so far. A lot of people say they don't think he wants to come back to coaching because he has a really good life right now. On the flip side, though, he has said, and it has been said in the past, he hasn't, that the one team he would love to coach is the Knicks. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind. I think he's very, very low on the possibilities list. I'll say like
probability index.
Yeah, probability. I'd say he's very low on that list. But I think he's on the list, and I think he will get a phone call. Now, whether he answers that phone remains to be seen. But I do think, and obviously the ties to the Villanova guys is there as well. So it'd be an easy thing for them to do, or for him to hop in because he knows, his best player he coached already. So they come in and he'd already have that connection. Let me throw out a name that some people have said we've heard in the past, and you guys can tell me what you think. John Calipari. Let's go there first.
No, you can skip that already. Oh, I'm nothing for him. I'll let Joe say that.
Clown show. The guy's clown shoes. No.
I'm with you both. I'm not a fan of his at all. He screams snake oil salesman for me. I'm not a fan of his, but it's, again, he has connections to Rose and to West. So, I think he's going to get a phone call. I do, but I don't. He was a terrible NBA coach the first time around. I don't see that changing this time.
No.
So I don't see that happening at all. The other name that is an easy name and a name a lot of people want, even though I don't, is Mark Jackson. What do you guys think?
Well, there goes that man. That lady of the night. Hallelujah.
What was that he used to do? The cross, right? It was supposed to be the cross.
Yeah,
that what he did?
That means cross the street. Over there. That's what that means.
I'll think of him fondly as a player.
But that's just it. He's not a Knick to me because his best years were with the Pacers, and I hated him then. So I don't care. This once a Knick, always a Knick.
He won Rookie of the Year for us. I mean, at least there was that.
I think the thing I can say about Mark, in all seriousness, Mark, he has a great basketball mind. He's one of the top leaders all time in assists in the history of the game.
Great point guard, right?
Great point guard. He did win Rookie of the Year here. Obviously, he's from here. Clearly, he would definitely know the lay of the land and how the New Yorkers think. I think he would probably have a great press conference all the time. Obviously, the cliches would be flying like daggers. I don't know. Can he reach? I mean, him and I think Brunson seem like they have a pretty good relationship. I've seen him on Brunson on his podcast with his other son. He's familiar with Rick. He probably would bring Rick on to the staff. I just think that he's a little too rebellious and stubborn. I think he's another Thibodeau, to be very honest.
He's got bad judgment, dude. He's got bad judgment with some of the things that he's done.
Oh, absolutely.
Like terrible judgment.
And arrogance. The arrogance of believing that it would be like Thibodeau. He'd just be a Thibodeau with a do-rag. That's all it is. Because he'll have some waves or something. Because no, I would never bring him in here. Because you don't want someone not willing to absorb what's going on and being able to pivot. You can't be just so stuck in your ways, and that's what we see with Thibodeau. Same thing with Malone, stuck in his ways. You got to be very careful with those kind of coaches.
Right. Okay, Mike Brown. That's another name we're hearing.
L to the none. Don't let me curse. Don't start me. We got a family-friendly show. That dude has robbed some franchises. I don't know if he was just meeting the quota. I want to say a DEI hire. But let me tell you one thing. That dude has never deserved none of the jobs he's ever got. He's a terrible, terrible coach. I am sorry. I don't know how he's ever gotten these jobs. And he has moments where it looks like he could be a successful coach and he's competent. And I'm on sure to some degree he is. But epic failures everywhere he's gone. It's always starts. We say Thibodeau is 4 or 5 years and he's out. Mike Brown is like 1 month. You're already getting rid of him. You're not going to leave Brown.
All right. The next guy I'm going to bring up is the guy that I think they should call and I would probably hire. And then we'll talk about guys who already have jobs, but apparently they're being thrown out too. Yeah. So the guy I'm thinking of is Taylor Jenkins, who was just fired from Memphis. I think he got a raw deal there. I think he's an excellent coach. He obviously knows how to win in today's game. He had a star point guard with Morant there, so he knows how to coach that position. He's a former big man himself, so Towns. There's a connection there with their second best player. I personally think that of the available guys, he is the guy I would want them to hire. That's my pick for them of the available guys. What do you guys say to Taylor Jenkins?
I could get behind that just because the people that are available, and you didn't mention Budenholzer either, but out of the guys that are available, I think you're probably right, Eric. I think that's probably the best option right now. Yeah. I don't buy the champion pedigrees of Budenholzer or Malone either. I really don't. I think nothing for nothing. If Durant's Achilles didn't burst, I don't think he would have a ring. And I honestly don't think that Malone, if he didn't have the roster he had, he wouldn't have a ring. I think there's a hyped resumes, both of them. I don't know. I think you're right. I think that's probably what we're looking at.
Ty, what do you think? Jenkins.
Well, Jenkins, I've always been a fan of Jenkins because the one thing I can definitely tell you about Jenkins is when his stars go down, he plays his bench. They have always been hyper. Ja Morant goes out for 20 games. They don't lose ground. They don't lose any ground. They make it to the playoffs still. He's always been a very good coach, in my opinion. Definitely has a style that I would like to see the Knicks play. You got to think about the dynamic. It's Ja Morant and his Triple J. Those are the guys that he manages, although not greatly offensive is Jared Jackson. But you can see the dynamic of Towns, maybe learning how to mesh those two guys together with Brunson and that. He's defensive oriented also. He's from the grindhouse, obviously. I like that. I like that pick, period. I mean, when you think about Budenholzer, he had an MVP. They're one of the best players in the league. You don't win with that? What the hell's wrong with you? Same thing when you go to Mike Malone. He had a guy who's probably should have been MVP for the last 5 years.
And he also had Jamal Murray before the knee injury, too. Yep. And a deep roster, a very deep roster.
How much coaching is he doing? Literally, do you think you got to coach Jokic? I don't think so. And Jokic is like, give me the clipboard. I can do it all, because he's the system. He's not Mike Malone as much as it's Jokic. So I'd scratch those guys off, all those retreads. But Taylor definitely was one of those guys I would definitely consider. Strongly consider.
All right. And then the next guy who is already a coach somewhere, but for some reason his name has popped up. So I want to bring him up. And I think we all would probably like to see him be the coach. And that's Ime Udoka. We've heard a lot. We've heard his name come up. I personally, unless he really wants to be in a big market, I would stay in Houston because that team is loaded with super good young players. I wouldn't leave. I would stay there. But I mean, if he wants the challenge of New York, if he wants to get back at the Celtics, maybe for firing him, like there's a lot of reasons why you take the Knicks job. Obviously, it's the Knicks. They're an original NBA team. They haven't won in so long. If you're the coach that wins it for them, forget it. You're gonna be, you might not get out of the garden alive. It's like there's a lot of reasons why you would want the Knicks job, but I don't know. I don't even know what it would cost. Tillman Fertitta is their owner. He's a billionaire. The money is not a problem for him. So, would he be okay with him saying, "Hey, I'm under contract, but I'd like to explore this position with New York"? I don't know, but what do you guys think is the realistic possibility of that happening? I guess that's the question.
He would be my first choice. I don't think it's happening.
Okay.
I think that Jay Williams sounded like he talks to Udoka on the phone. He was like,
maybe.
Go say it for me. That's the way I kind of took that.
He'd like to come back and stick it to Boston.
Yeah.
Well, he should have been, when they were interviewing, Tom Thibodeau, Udoka was one of the people they were interviewing. He should have got the damn job then. It was either him or Kenny. The Thibodeau thing is like ridiculous. He should have gotten Udoka would have been absolutely perfect for New York. He's got the grit and grind. He's got that snarl and he means every bit of his snarl. Other than like Tom going, damn, he's not making any changes. Udoka challenges his players, and if you don't adhere to what he challenges you, he sits you. He's like, well, we're not playing these games, And plus, anybody who can get at LeBron from the sideline and just not give zero about who he was and let his players know I don't care about this dude like that. Man, imagine he had that snarl and that growl and that nastiness in the garden, something that we would obviously embrace. I think it's possible Doc Rivers became the Clippers coach. Same way. They had to offer something, and Boston allowed him to go and coach the Clippers. I don't know what he would have to say or do or what the compensation is for that. But I'm not going to say it's going to be a 90% chance, but you got to say if it's out there and Jay Williams put it out there, he might have talked to Udoka who wanted him to put it out there and say, hey, come and get me. I might be interested in that job. Why would he not be? I mean, I know Houston, right? The roster is fabulous in Houston. Why would he want to leave? Well, it's New York.
Yeah. They had success with him though, and he pulled that roster together. They had success as soon as he came. They'd be crazy to move him.
Well,
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't move him. I wouldn't let him go anywhere.
The only way I could see it is if he goes and says, I really want this. Like, I really want this job. And I've always wanted this job. And that's the only way I can see it even becoming an issue. I don't think he would not show up and not go. I don't think he's that kind of guy. Again, there's only what 30 of these jobs, right? There's only 30 of them in the NBA. There's 30 teams in the NBA, right? So there's only 30 jobs, and you have one of them already. So hey, but it was a name that I saw thrown out there. More than one spot has said it. The fact that it's out there and he is already a coach kind of makes me wonder if there's a little smoke there. But we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. But anyway, we're turning that page. We are turning the page. And let's quickly go to let's talk about some other off-season stuff. Then we'll do a little bit of a recap of the.
Can I toss out one thing real quick? Sure. Jason Kidd's name's come up as well.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. He's the other one who's been under contract. The guy under contract that's come out. We've seen that happen before. So with him,
he's
that wouldn't be the worst thing that ever happened.
No, it wouldn't.
And he's capable of acting like he pulled a hamstring and end up on a bus. I mean, the Greyhound. I don't know. They just found me. I'm stuck on the side. I can't leave because he's got some shadiness about him. Is why I'm saying it. He has 0 Fs about his image because we've seen him leverage himself. We've seen him spill water on himself. You know, he left.
What he was with the
it was funny. He's capable of saying, yeah, get me a little bit out of here. Because he's opportunistic. He is. He's opportunistic.
He is.
So I could see him maybe being like, oops, I don't know.
He could just quit.
He could quit. Maybe.
How long is his contract? I'm sorry, I gotta look that up.
And I don't know if he has the whatever the equivalent of coaching as a non-compete is. I don't know what that is. But it would be interesting. It would definitely be interesting if he was the guy. Yeah. Definitely would be interesting. I've always loved him. I loved him as a player, so I would love it from that perspective because he's my type of guard. But I don't know if that's going to be a rough one. Well,
him and Brunson got the relationship. Yeah, so Brunson's never going to look at him like, oh, I don't trust this guy. In fact, that might be. I mean, as much as we like Udoka, Kid probably is the better one to actually steer Brunson in the right way because he would definitely.
He just signed an extension.
He just signed an extension. Oh, just recently.
So to Thibodeau. So what? What is that?
He traded Luka. They'll give us Kid. Don't worry.
They always had to screw us out of that draft pick.
Yeah.
And I wonder if he wants to go through the Cooper. I mean, Cooper Flag's probably going to be a fantastic player, but he's still a rookie, and you're kind of starting over again. And I wonder if he's going to want to go through that whole process.
No Kyrie next year.
I would say Kyrie.
Yep, that's true too. So
AD already called this summer and said he's not going to be playing. So, it is what it is. He won't have his star players. It will basically be Cooper Flag's team. Doesn't want to go through that kind of rebuild because that's technically what you're kind of doing on the fly.
Right. All right. So let's move on to some more pressing matters. We'll get into more of this when we do our postseason show, but the Knicks have some current players under contract who they have to make decisions on. And they are all bench guys, so it's not like it's a big deal, but I'm just going to say the name of each one, and you guys could say, yes, you want him back, or no, you don't. That's that simple. Just kind of play a quick little game. So, all right, so Precious Achiuwa, back or not?
No.
Sure.
Yes?
No.
Yes.
I know? No. So that's a yes for Joe, no for Ty. All right. Landry Shamet.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, 2 yeses for Landry. DeLon Wright.
Yes.
No.
No. And the next guy I know everyone's gonna say no. Cameron Payne.
Hell, beep, no.
Cam Payne needs to hand out balloons to kids in the Disney World or something.
So I saw those guys and I was like, do we really want to talk about it? But I kind of do because I feel like, at least in Precious Achiuwa's case, I feel like he was told we need you because at the time, remember, they didn't have a backup center. We kept asking, when are they going to sign a backup? So they bring him back and he did get hurt, but then he was never kind of really part of the rotation.
No.
Right? So it was a weird situation with him this year. So I'm wondering, does he even want to come back? He might say nah. I mean, he is from the area, he's from this area, so that could be why, he likes playing here.
He's going to be walking into a different reality too, and nothing for nothing. We're probably going to get him on the cheap because it's not like people are going to be lined up to throw money at him.
Fair,
especially considering his production and the fact that there's not going to be any money out there. He's somebody that you can re-sign because we still kind of have a hole at the 4, I think, in the backup area. And I think he's better than he's shown. He's been productive every time we played him.
You want to know why I said no to him? He's had some moments. And maybe I can just say it's the butterfly effect of Tom Thibodeau. There was times in some of those games he was throwing up shots. I'm like, damn well, you shouldn't be making that shot. And he's had some of those moments where I don't have any hair, if everybody know. But you almost take the tweezer to pull out the last one because I'm like, what the hell are you doing? That makes no sense that you're launching up shots that is nowhere in your bag. If you went to Walmart and got an extra bag or Dollar Tree to get 4 bags, it still wasn't being in your damn bag because that's not your game. And it seems like there was, now it could be Thibodeau, I don't know, but the pressures that we saw the last 2 years when he came over with OG, that was not the guy we've seen in this last season. So that was my reluctance. I know he's a New Yorker. There's no knock on him. I just don't know what he was doing in the minutes when he did get it.
Those are the shots a guy takes when he doesn't get his hands on the ball a hell of a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he was pressing, trying to show that he deserves to be in the rotation.
Yeah.
And
I'm going
that's though he was, yes, he made some bad decisions with the ball. I agree. There were times, there were a few games where I was like, all right, that's the Precious I remember. And then there was too many games where I was like, Utah, like, what happened to this guy? Like, what happened?
It's confidence, like Joe said. That's what I'm saying. I wanted to explain why I said no about him. It's not because I don't like him.
Well, it's hard to make decisions on these guys, like even DeLon Wright, because we don't know what's coming up, and there's a finite amount of spots. So you know what? I'm going to change my DeLon Wright to a no.
Okay.
Just to hope that something else will come up.
I think they could do better than him. That's one of my
I'm
going to say.
So I'm going to go with yes with Precious and yes with.
I mean, it's hard. Honestly, it's hard for me to even
assess them.
It's hard to even assess, especially Wright and Shamet. I mean, I know what Landry Shamet can do. I've watched him. He's a veteran. I've seen him be very, very good. But again, and he ended the season well. The fact that Tibbs said he was in the rotation, but he never played. I'm like, how are you in a rotation if you're not playing? Like, what?
Yeah,
that's what you're.
Seriously, like, I wonder if that was the press conference that Dolan watched. He's like, what? That doesn't play.
He was always in the rotation. Yeah, just not this season. What? And you know what? So, honestly, they should have brought Shamet in for Hart. That would have made so much more sense if he was playing the 2. You got a guy who can stretch the floor. You don't lose nothing on defense. He's a great on-ball defender. He plays with tenacity on defense. I just don't know why that guy wasn't getting no minutes.
I have no idea. There are a bunch of free agents. This is a sneaky good free agent class. And what I mean by that is there's not a lot of big names. There are some, but there are some guys out here you're kind of like, oh, I would take a flyer on him, or oh, he could help.
And there's very little money going around too. You're going to get a lot of potential bargains. Yeah, especially if it's a team that could be in contention.
I was going to ask you, who do you see on that list that you think is good?
So Nickeil Alexander-Walker is one guy, excellent shooter. If you guys watched any of the playoffs with the Timberwolves, he really showed he's a little bit more than I think he's been tasked to do, or been how people perceive him. I think he might be a little bit more than that. So there's something there with him. A guy who's had tons of injury problems, but still extremely talented, Marvin Bagley III. Yeah. He's a free agent. Another guy out there, like I said. Luka. Yeah, like he's that guy. Chris Boucher, I remember. He's a little bit of an older veteran free agent, but he's kind of that dual. He could play a couple positions, center forward position. Him there.
Huh? He's from Toronto. The guy from Toronto, right?
Yes, from Toronto. Mm-hmm. Yes. Our old friend Malcolm Brogdon. He's gonna be right.
Nicely.
He's healthy. They're good backup point guard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's other guys on the list. I was just scanning it real quickly and trying to pick out names of guys who are gonna be around. So I feel like we'll get into it more when we do a more official show on it. Mm-hmm. But I feel like there are pieces out there of guys will we be able to sign this year to build out the bench. Again, without knowing the coach, it's hard to say what they're going to do because we don't know what style they're going to play, where they're going to go. So I feel like the Knicks are going to want to get that done before free agency starts. So I feel like we have literally a month for them to find a coach.
Well, probably before Summer League.
So maybe.
They're going to have someone in before Summer League.
So yeah, Clint Capella is another name, by the way, who's a free agent. Just throwing him out there. We know how much he kills us when he's on another team. So to bring him here, it'd be nice. Veteran, great, excellent rebounder. Because I'm trying to think of those positions because I'm not really sure what the next coach is going to do with Mitch and Cat. If Cat stays, which I think he is, but we'll see how that plays out as well. If there's a trade that happens, I don't think a Giannis trade is happening, but if there is a trade, I'm almost 100% sure he's going to be part of it. So he'll be the guy going out. So, but let's talk about him because honestly, I have not seen this kind of polarization surrounding a player like I've seen with him from just these playoff series. Not the regular season, this was not an issue. But the playoffs come, and all of a sudden we are seeing he's been the one scapegoated for the loss. Let's just be honest. He's the guy that everyone says we lost because of his defense. Now, regardless of the fact that he was the only Knick in the series with a plus minus, though he's one of 3 actually. But he was the first guy. He was a plus 19. So that means in his minutes, this is the math, folks. This is not hard to figure out. In his minutes on the floor, the Knicks scored 19 more points than the Pacers. That's what that means. So Jalen Brunson, he's the other guy on this because I need to point this out because you see the difference in how people perceive each guy. Jalen Brunson was a +2. Now, still, he was a plus, so yay, congratulations. They were better with him, and they should be because of the type player he is. But all of the metrics, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but all of the metrics I have read, the minutes that Towns was on the floor with another unit and Brunson was on the floor with another unit, the Knicks were worse when it was the Brunson unit as opposed to the Towns unit.
Yeah, sure. It's not sure.
I know why this is personally. At least I think I do. It's optics. It's spectators at this point. When you watch Brunson play, you see magnificence. You don't see the weaknesses as much. When I watch Towns play, now granted, he got mauled this entire playoffs. He should have spent his entire playoffs at the line. But he kind of bumbles around, and even when he gets the basket, it kind of goes in, and he's being guarded by people that are like 5 inches shorter than him, and you're like, why are you not dominating? It doesn't look like he's as effective as he actually is. And we had this conversation, you and I, during our last show where you brought out some of the statistics, and I'm like, I'm surprised by that. Like, I buy it completely, but I feel like I watched a different experience with him. You see him benching at calls and stumbling and doing like all of this stuff. And yeah, he's scoring and everything like that. But you're left observing this going, why isn't he dominating? And the thing is, he is in his own way. It's optics. You see the way Brunson plays, you get a completely different picture than when you see Cat play. And again, these are people observing it. That guy from the fan tore him apart. But then again, you see games where he actually does dominate. And you're like, why aren't you doing more of that? Why do you disappear at times? All of those things. So it has a lot to do with optics, I think. I don't think it actually has to do with results. That's just my opinion.
So, Todd, do you think that's fair?
Well, I agree with Joe in a lot of ways. He doesn't make it look pretty. Brunson gets it out of the dirt. It does look better, cosmetics of the game. But I think it is the optics, and I also think it's just the low IQ of people watching the game, to be very honest, and people with agendas. I've just heard so many things about Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, between hearing that he's, excuse me for anyone, but the zesty thing needs to stop.
Yeah.
So it's like
that needs
whatever he does. I mean, he's got a nice looking woman, so I don't know what they're talking about. There should be more dudes zesty. I'm just saying, I'd be very zesty. He's got a nice looking woman, so shout out.
It's a very underhanded shot.
Look, because Prince wore high heel shoes. So I mean, what are we talking about here? see Stu Prince had, rest in peace. Yeah, he had some very nice looking women. So
Yes.
I don't care about if he's zesty. I don't care what his articulation sound like. I've said it from the beginning when he came here. I said, look, I love Brunson. Best Nick, we probably definitely one of the best free agents signed in the history of NBA, to be very honest. He's been glorified in New York and he's deserved every bit of it. But however, I've said he's an axe. Karl Anthony Towns is mauling trees easily. You defer to him every damn time down the floor until the defense makes you have to not defer to him because he's a special talent. The dude can score from anywhere, and he looks like he's not even trying. That's the knock on, and that's probably why they criticize Karl. He does it with such a ease that you kind of don't really realize that he's scoring in tough ways because you're looking at him like, oh, he's bobbling around, he's falling. Yeah, those shots are going in, though.
Yeah. It's true.
They're going in. They just don't look cosmetically great, but they're going in because you know what? Damn it, he's got a double throughout the whole playoffs. So something's happening. So when we hear that he's zesty soft, what did he average? 11 boards in the playoffs?
And he played hurt.
With a bad
One
knee
leg.
and a dislocated finger? What are we talking about zesty for? There's a lot of NBA players that need to get zestier. Because let me tell you one thing. He showed to me he's a tough dude. I don't care about how he wears his hair and how he answers questions and the tone of his voice. You know, damn about that. I don't care what his preference is. Can you give me 25 and 10 or 11 a night and 12 a night? Can you get 60 at any point? Can you get a quarter where you throw up 20 points and you win the damn game for the Knicks? What are we doing here in New York? Why are we worried about people's lifestyle? The lifestyle is winning. We should be concerned about those things and not about – I don't like bringing up this idiot's name, but I got it because I just got a reference. Gilbert Arenas sits there and he talks about his body. Oh, he has an itch body. I'm not going to say the word. An itch body. He belongs in the WNBA. He has a – I'm like, dude, where's your rings at? Why are we talking about – you're not even nowhere near as talented as Karl Anthony Towns. Let's just keep it a buck. You were just an isolation shooter. That's all you were. You can't sit there and compare what – Karl Anthony Towns is one of the most talented bigs. He's Jokic light. That's the only way you can ever really describe him. He's Jokic light. You had a nerve to talk about this dude's body? Like, that's zesty to me. You're looking at another man's body and acting like you're the tough one. And meanwhile, you're just like, oh, look at his hips. I've never said that about a man. No offense. I don't care if you say it about a man. That's your preference. But I'm just saying, come on. You don't – what business? Why are the guys around him not like going, hey, don't you want to pause that? Because you're talking about another man being zesty, and you make maybe the most zestiest comment by standard by admiring a man's body, and you're claiming that you don't do those kind of things. I mean, what are we doing here? Karl Anthony Towns, don't get me wrong, we knew about his shortcomings when he came down. The one thing I will say is someone said he should lose weight. I do believe he needs to thin out.
He should.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think he's a little mean. He's probably came back here and got some
better for his knees, better for his mobility.
He's at the bodegas a little bit more. Bodega cat, he's in there. He's like getting home food. I can understand. His auntie's probably around. I get it, dog. Yeah, you can get to trim up a little bit. But we're talking about a dude that can walk into any arena and put up 60 and look like he never sweat the game. So lay off of Karl Anthony Towns. We knew he wasn't a strong defender when he came here. He was not brought in here for his defense. And also you got to look at it how it's being utilized. Where did the Knicks really suffer? When we talk about defensive schemes, like they're acting like Karl Anthony Towns is giving up dunks, high percentage shots. Oh, he's not blocking the rim. What they're asking is that he doesn't show enough on the perimeter to stop a three-point shooter because they expect him to recover to stop or hedge enough on a penetrator.
A lot of the questions are him not switching correctly either on switching.
It's a product of
Thibodeau's defense that makes him look even worse.
There's two ways you handle those situations, right? It's either drop coverage or you push up. It's one or the other. So when he was healthier, he was more likely to come up on the shooter because if he had to recover, he could. He could backpedal. If the shooter faked him, he could go back. When after he hurt his knee, it was even worse because I noticed the difference.
Yeah.
After he hurt his knee and he couldn't really drop back, he did the drop coverage because in case he didn't shoot the ball, he could recover. He had an easier chance to recover on that player.
Yep.
Now, he's not, I've never claimed he's a good defender, but he is average. He is an average defensive player in the right system. I think has been proven. I said last year he was part of the best defense in the NBA. The Timberwolves had the best defense in the NBA last year. He was part of that team. Now, yes, they had Gobert, and Gobert can make up for, could cover a lot of mistakes. Totally get it. And that's why, like when I said this, when they traded him, I thought he'd be power forward because I thought he was going to pair him with Mitch. That's what I thought was the plan.
Everybody did.
Right? So that's why I was like, oh, okay, well, they're just going to try and replicate what Minnesota did, and that'll be, Towns could play that role. He's a great outside shooter. That's the thing. Like, instead of, like you brought up, Ty, instead of harping on the things he does great, because he does them great. How many 7-foot centers? I'm not talking about Dirk Nowitzki because he was more of a small forward, power forward. How many 7-foot centers have won a 3-point contest in the NBA? It's one. It's him. Like, he is a 3-level scorer. Yes, like we said, not a great defensive player, but let's focus on that. Let's get the most out of that. That's what whoever they hire as the next coach, that's what I want. Get the most out of him and Brunson. The defense, whatever. Figure it out. Figure out the defense. You can. I'm sure these guys they're all professional basketball players. I'm sure you can figure out a defensive scheme that could cover for their weaknesses because what they both do on offense is so much better than 90% of the league. These guys are in the top 10 in scoring, both of them. Both of them are all NBA players this year.
Second team.
So like you said, Ty, what are we doing here? What are we doing by focusing on Towns' shortcomings as defensive and blaming him when the statistics show it might have been the point guard at the point of attack getting beat all the time. It might have been Jalen Brunson's fault.
Well, you got to look at it this way, too. You have 2 prolific nuclear weapons as scorers. You brought in, say you did start Mitch like you should have next to him. Is he not one of the best defenders in the league? If you say yes to that, so why is he not in the game? If you say Mikal Bridges is known as one of the best two-way players and a defender, if you say yes to that, and if you say OG is dynamite defender, you're going to say yes to those 3 things. Those 3 dudes need to be defending, to be picking up the slack on the ends and taking the tough assignments. Excuse me, the fact that he had OG looking like he was Kawhi Leonard for most of the season, we're like, you ain't Kawhi. Don't get me wrong, it's good seeing he can score, but it shouldn't be something being filtered through him to feed his ego. You need to say what's best for the team. Those 2 dudes are unstoppable scorers. OG can be stopped. Bridges can be stopped. Mitch can be stopped. Mitch can be stopped at the foul line. You foul him, you can stop him. So guess what your damn job is? Your job is to defend those 2 weapons. To make up for what you can't do on the offensive end, you're brought in to be defenders. Joe and I talked about having the Dobermans. I didn't even see 2 puppies. Have you seen 2 puppies in this lineup? You weren't 2 damn puppies. You didn't see any defense from those guys because much like you're saying the exit, you saw some flashes, and the exit interview said they
you saw some of it in Detroit and you saw some of it in Boston.
Yep. But where was it all year? That's the question. Where was it all year? Why was that not the plan coming into all these games? That we know Brunson's weak at defense, but he's extra total opposite on offense. You know what their specialty is. These guys are meant to score and make they're unstoppable scorers. So you got to put out your wing stop and not make them like Buffalo Wild Wings like you had them all year. And you got Mitch in there. And if Mitch can't stay healthy, you need to get another 5.
They need to get another 5 period.
They do.
They need to start. And that's what he said with Capella. I was like, I wonder how many games he played last year. Because it's important that you get a starting 5 and then rotate Mitch and Hakordi. That should be your 3-headed monster right there at the 5. What are we doing here? You can't sit there and expect Towns, a guy who's slower foot. He can even lose weight. He's just not – he doesn't have the lateral movement. You hope that he can guard somebody one-on-one like he did Jokic. So when people say he can't defend, he defended Jokic. Yeah, it was a one-on-one situation. He can defend. He maybe can't read a pick and roll or defend the perimeter person. He don't got the foot speed. It is what it is. But don't act like those other three dudes are not supposed to be there to do the dirty work. That's their jobs. Apparently, the job got grayed out because OG had to be filtered and get 30 points.
It was crazy. It was crazy. I mean, again, on the plus side, it's a good thing that we know he can score if they need him to. But you're right. His role, and that was the complaint, right? Players said that Thibodeau got fired. Players were saying we didn't know our role. So if that's the complaint, then maybe there was blurred lines there, right? Like OG's
we noticed that throughout the season, how Bridges' role had changed, how OG's role had changed, how there was role confusion. Absolutely. I think the biggest problem with Bridges this year was role confusion.
Yeah, I agree.
That's single player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true.
And the point that Eric brought up, if Bridges was playing on the 2 side, he would pick up the guy at the point guard. He would be picking up the point guard, and he would put Jalen on the off guard. So you'd switch up, and you would press the point of attack. But you have Bridges playing the point guard. What was he? Was he the small? I guess he was small. Whatever.
Well, he did finally in the Indiana series. He did finally switch it up and put him on Halliburton. And then in the games that he did pick up Halliburton full court, Halliburton made some assists, but his scoring went down. He wasn't scoring like he did before that. So there was a benefit to him doing that. But again, like all of this stuff was there from the beginning. Like this is the problem. And this is why he got fired. I have to believe this is why he got fired, because all of these answers were there. We all talked about them. Everyone talked about them. Former players were talking about you on their podcasts. And when I thought about everything since the firing, and I thought about all of that, like former players say, yeah, like you have Jeff Teague saying he doesn't care about offense publicly to everyone who listens to that show. Like, and you don't think that this gets back to the owner and everyone, like, you don't think these guys hear this? So, I mean, the case was always there. It just took this happening for it to happen. And again, he seems like a nice guy. I don't wish anyone getting fired. I don't want anyone losing their job. Obviously he's going to be fine. He's made bazillions of dollars, so I'm not worried about him financially, but still, I've never been one who's like, oh, I'm happy. Like, I wasn't cheering when he got fired. I was like, all right, finally we could do something, because I've just, I want the team to be like you guys said, I want the team to win a championship. I've seen all the other steps in my life. We've been to the finals and lost. I've seen all of that. We all have. The three of us have. We all have experienced that. I just haven't experienced the pinnacle with this team.
Yep.
So that's all I care about. So if I see a crack in the armor from the beginning with a coach, I'm like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have to say, in retrospect, I wish we would have won one with Tibbs. This was always his dream job. I would have loved to have seen him win in New York. But no, it's not going to happen, but it would have been nice.
It would have been.
I don't care who we win with.
I think it's a good story if he had, but it lends to the idea of how stubbornly ignorant he is, because all you had to do was be flexible. That's the only action was be flexible. Just notice that the basketball has always been played with 14 to 15 guys, not 7. The only thing we've ever asked is, at least during the regular season, to give some of these guys an opportunity, because it is a team sport the last time I checked. And injuries happen. What if one of the guys in the Knicks went down? That means that no one was prepared on that bench to ever play any good minutes, because he never trusted them. What kind of garbage is that? These guys in the NBA, somebody trusted him. They gave him contracts, very healthy contracts. So it's not like you got somebody on the bench. You're paying that dude's $5 million, $3 million, whatever it is more than what we're making. I mean, these guys have a lifestyle, and you're telling me you're willing to spend the company's money to have these guys collect dust, because that's what he's basically. And if I'm Dolan, I'd fire him too. You want me to get a whole team here, and you're saying, just spend your money on him. I'm not going to play him. Like, you look from that thing from a different perspective. Like, as an owner, you're like, I'm cutting the check, and this dude refuses to play the guys I'm paying.
Yep. That's a fair point as well.
I'll be interested to see how the rookies are handled in the next regime, because they're positioned well. We have a backup point guard, we have a backup wing, and we have a backup big man. And they all have different, skill sets, but
Yeah, I mean, they could not sign any of the guys we talked about and just play them.
no, seriously, because again, that's how you operate under the second apron if you're playing players.
Yeah.
Like, we still don't know how they're going to pay Mitch. If they decide to bring Mitch back, or how they're going to re-sign Bridges. You need those low-cost guys. They're going to have to be part of what you're doing.
And they got to make decisions on two of those guys, on both Dottier and Kolick, because now you're going to ask yourself, are they capable of playing NBA basketball? Which I think they are. I don't think there's a problem. I think Dottier is a little bit behind physically. I think that's what he has to work on. But
I think he's the one with the highest ceiling, though.
He is.
All of them.
I do too.
He is. I think he's got definitely the talent there. but if the guy never plays on the NBA floor, how would you ever know what his value is? Like we talk. I mean, we joke. I mean, some of us like Obi, some of us didn't. Some of us didn't care. But you literally got an open bag of Skittles for him.
Yeah.
Because you think now how Rick Carlisle uses them, you couldn't get a little bit better pick.
And you totally could have, and they could have used what he brings. Like our Knicks team could have used what Obi Toppin is giving them. There's no doubt in my mind.
No doubt about it.
And the fact they gave him away for nothing, like you said, a bag of Skittles.
Because that guy don't want to play. He's not. Listen, that's what I'm saying about the value. That's why I don't wish nobody fired, but I can justify why he got fired because you're creating malpractice on this team because this front office is drafting players, signing free agents, and meanwhile you're saying, I don't care what you do, they're worthless. He doesn't care about sinking their value. You have what's his name, Beauchamp? What was the dude?
Yeah, Marjon Beauchamp. Yeah.
So he comes in, played in Milwaukee. They played him in Milwaukee. He comes in, Tips like he does one windmill dunk, and he shot the rest of his career. That one dunk, that's his memorable moment. He went on the break. He had that incredible dunk, and we never saw him again.
Yeah, former first-round pick too. So
yeah, you think you can use his body to defend? He's a good defender. A young body out there trying to defend on the wing. Nah, we don't need that.
All right, so the last thing I want to talk about before we shut this one down is Josh Hart. Now, look, we all know what he does well. We all know what this guy is, the kind of player he is. But maybe now that the coach is gone, it won't be an issue. But we also know that he played a hell of a lot more than he probably should have. Now, and I don't know if the Knicks can keep him in a different role because of that. Like now he's kind of established something for himself on this team and his presence on this team. And I think whatever coach comes in now, they're going to have to combat that. The fact also that he's best friends with the best player. And there's so many things involved here regarding him. And let's be honest, he had a terrible conference finals.
He did.
He was horrific.
Yeah.
Turning the ball over all the time. And thank you for finally saying I'm a bench player because, that's where he should have been. But what do you think his role is going to be going forward? Because I think he's the type of player you can find somewhere else. I'm being honest. So what do you guys think about his role going forward? Even if we don't know the coach, what do you think his role going forward will be?
I think he's going to be definitely coming off the bench. In fact, the new information that came out was that he asked to go to the bench during a Celtics series. It was in Indiana. He went to Thibodeau. Like I said, once again, go back to Thibodeau. He went to the coaching staff and said, "Put me on the bench. I think it'd be better suited for the team." Forthcoming also, I think he was injured too. He has a bad knee. And I think he was suffering from something else also. Probably contributed to him, and obviously the exhaustion of playing 40-something minutes on a bad knee probably made him look a little terrible, more so than ever. I do think there's a role for him. I mean, I think coming off the bench, being an energy guy, a possible six-man type of year person, his usage was way crazy. I don't think you need to use him as much. He's indicative of what New Yorkers want. He plays his ass off. He's literally the heart. You're talking about heart transplant. I think they'll need one if they got rid of him. To be very honest, because I don't know who's the other guy who plays with the right understanding of what New Yorkers want. I mean, Brunson does, but it's a little bit louder with Josh. He probably would get the same role he had most of his career. When you think about it, I think that's the role he'll get. He was always a reserve type when he was on the Lakers, when he was on New Orleans, when he was on the Blazers.
Mm-hmm.
He came here, and Thibodeau does what he normally does with players like Josh. He overuses them in the wrong situations. And, he's a victim of circumstances, unfortunately, but it's one that he recognized enough that he said, put me on the bench. That's why I'm going to serve. And the coach still played him 40 minutes. He still played him 40 minutes coming off the bench. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's the funny part. Like he came off the bench, but his minutes were the same. He didn't really change.
Yeah, I would have to say this is the zenith of kind of his role on any franchise. I mean, he'll never be as important of a component of any team as he was at this team under Tom Thibodeau. Again, I agree that it's not somebody that you can move off of. He's somebody that I don't think other franchises are going to value him as highly as maybe he's valued here, even now during the transition. He is somebody you can move to the bench because he's signed, he has his money, all of that stuff. I don't think there's going to be a lot of grief as far as that goes. I think he's where he wants to play and who he wants to play with. I think he'll be able to handle a role change, and you could always use a player that does what Josh does. Again, you just can't depend on him to be one of the focal points of your team. He's not that player. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I'd like to see him stay.
Yeah, me too.
I definitely would.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm like I said, I do like what he brings and what he stands for. So I'm not totally like, oh, they need to get rid of him. But I just think a lot. I even think like beyond the court, his relationship with Brunson, is Brunson too comfortable with having his guys around? There's just certain things that go in my head because now we just heard like Craig shared a story with us that Rick Brunson was a problem for people.
Are we shocked?
No, I'm not shocked. I'm just saying though, like, and that's enough. He wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Jalen being here. So like, there's just certain things that I
what
wonder.
happens with him now?
I don't know.
He's gonna start pushing paper clips. I think he'll have some role, maybe as a trainer or something like that. But I don't think Rick. Someone asked me, they was like, "Oh, what about Jalen's father?" And I just laughed. I'm like, Rick wants to fight everybody. We can't. Look at the Dante situation.
I know, that's the funniest thing.
Best friend. He's like, I'll choke him. You can't.
I wonder if Rick thinks
can have Meta World Peace be his assistant.
Yeah, I said that to you guys today too. Meta wants it. He wants the coach. Yeah. But I wonder how Rick Brunson approaches this. Like, dude, you're super old now. Stop acting like you're still a young player who can take like you're an old man now. Accept that part of it, because trust me on this. I'm pretty sure. I know you may think you could take one of these guys, but they will kick your ass. Yeah. They will beat your ass.
They'll serve you up.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's the dynamic between him and Brunson too. Like Brunson's like, you're an old man.
Yeah.
Calm down. It's like, no, I still got it. It's like, dude, somebody's father. I always say, when you're somebody's father, you might want to chill a little bit. You ain't that dude no more. It's all right. Everybody goes in their own lane after they get older. But Rick's like ready to fight. Now you wouldn't have to die. This is terrible. You can't.
I know it's very funny. It is funny to watch the dynamic. You're right. I don't know what's gonna happen to him. it's going to be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out going forward with the coaching search, and because this is a break. Like, this is a break away from the Thibodeau Brunson kind of marriage in a way. This is a break from that. So the organization is saying, look, we thank you and it was great, and we're glad, Jalen, we're glad you're here, but we need to do what's best for the Knicks,
which is good.
And and that's the way that they're approaching this, which is great. But like we said, Leon Rose has a relationship with Thibodeau, and he just fired him. Like, it might have been Dolan's call, but Rose is the name on the.
If it was Dolan's call, it was the right call. I just wish they had a plan in place before they did it. It didn't have to happen right now.
I think it did, though, because they have, like we said, they have the draft coming up. You have free agency coming up. You need to know who your coach is.
Yeah.
Before you start doing these moves.
I agree.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we saw that happen with Phil, and we got Ntilikina because Phil.
No, I get that.
You know, and you know, so Dolan's like, oh no, I'm not going to do that again. A name we didn't bring up. I don't think we brought up during our coaching thing was Johnny Bryant. He was the one that most people tend to think about mostly.
There's smoke around that too a little bit. All of a sudden, I mean, he was a candidate for Phoenix, and Phoenix just hired somebody.
A Cavalier assistant, which is kind of crazy. They were both up for the job assistant. So, does he return back to Cleveland, or does he look at New York as the opportunity? The familiarity is there, obviously.
There might be a story there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think they do need probably a coach that they can't walk over. I don't think he is one. I'm just saying that the respect. It's a weird situation. You can't bring an experimental coach in too quickly. You got to have somebody who's going to have a personality and a voice like that's why we like M.A. or Jason Kidd, because they can't tell those dudes anything. It's not like you're going to sit there and say, oh, I want to run it this way or whatever. Because you got to have Brunson's respect, because Brunson looks like a nice guy, but he's very snarky.
He's calculating. He's very calculating.
Yeah, so I could see. I always say he's got that personality that people are unassuming, believing that he's not a killer, and he is. So I think you definitely have to have as much of an IQ as him.
Yeah,
that's what. Yeah, that's kind of why I think Jenkins is a perfect choice for a lot of those reasons.
Mm-hmm. I didn't really have him on my radar until you mentioned him, actually. But it makes a lot of sense.
But we'll see how this plays out going forward, guys, and we'll keep you. We will be here when they hire a coach. If we're all available and we could do a show, we will do a show that night, because it happened so fast yesterday. I really wanted us to get together last night. I was like, we should do it yesterday, but it couldn't happen. But we will definitely, if they hire a guy and it's if it's not on a weekend, because on a weekend we won't do a show. But if it's during the week and we have an opportunity, we definitely will get together and we will come to you with the news and give our opinions on that. So I want to thank you all again for watching us. We would not have this show if you guys did not keep coming back, and our viewership keeps going up. So I appreciate everyone watching. For Ty and Joe, I'm Eric. You're watching All Knicked Up. We'll see you next week. Go Knicks.